Good afternoon, everyone. I am Spot On Weather meteorologist Matthew Euler, and welcome to my latest Teleconnections discussion, this one on the 21st of October, 2025. So let's go ahead and take a look at the Northern Hemisphere, the shortwave troughs and ridges across the Northern Hemisphere right now. Starting off with a strong upper level ridge over central Russia, with a downstream upper level trough in the blue color here across eastern Russia into the northwestern Pacific. We do see a closed upper level low and troughing in general across Alaska and also down over the Aleutian Islands at the present time. Additionally, we see upper level ridging, which is located off the U.S. Pacific Northwest coast. And that ridging is extending northward from Washington State and Oregon up into southwestern Canada. An upper level trough is located over the upper Midwest with upper level ridging across southeastern Canada and west of Greenland here into the Baffin Bay area. And then there's an upper level trough over the central North Atlantic. We have another trough just to the east of Greenland. And then we see another trough north, a closed low and troughing north of Sweden, Finland, and Norway up in this location here. So in general, if we look at the higher upper level heights and the ridges, we have two really predominantly strong upper level ridges right now, extending pretty far to the north into the Arctic areas. We have the one across central Russia, very strong upper level ridge, and the other very strong upper level ridge is located basically from the western Atlantic northward just to the west of Greenland and Baffin Bay. So two really strong upper level high height centers today across the northern hemisphere. And we do see a lot of the blues and the greens, the upper level troughing, the more unsettled conditions and colder temperatures generally across far northeastern Russia. We have a closed upper level low. And again, we have another closed low there in the Aleutian Islands and across Alaska. So we got a lot of blues and greens on the Arctic side of the Pacific. We have a lot of greens and blues there also north of Sweden, Finland, and Norway area. On the Atlantic side of the Arctic, we do see troughing extending into the British Isles today, and we do have another closed upper level low over Eastern Europe. So we do see, quite a bit of activity in this 500 millibar shortwave ridges and troughs today. If we look at the Matt-Julian oscillation, the MJO phases and areas of enhanced convection, rising vertical air motion, the MJO is divided into 8 phases. Phase 8 and 1 is generally 8 is on the west side of South Africa, and then phase 1 is on the east side of Africa in the vicinity of Madagascar. We have MJO in phases 2 and 3. We generally have enhanced rising air motion and convection across the Indian Ocean. MJO in phases 4 and 5. That is enhanced rising air motion and convection across Australia, the maritime continent. And if we go into MJO phases 6 and 7, we're generally in the tropical Western Pacific. And then finally, MJO phase 8 is where we have enhanced convection or rising air motion around the vicinity of the dateline. If we look at the temperature composites here on the left for September, October, and November, and I'll be flipping this over here shortly when we flip the calendar to November, I'll be changing these temperature composites up. But the yellow and orange colors indicate above normal temperatures. The blue colors indicate below normal temperatures. So if we take a look at the MJO forecast here on the right, this is the latest Jeff's V12 from the 21st of October today, forecast out through 4 November there. Currently in the Jeff's V12, we're showing the MJO here on the 21st day of October, about to enter, it's in phase 3, about to go into phase 4. It's right there on that line there. And then it rotates more strongly into phase 4, according to the Jeff's V12, and then to phase 5. And by early November, the MJO is over here and entering phase 6 on the Jeffs. If we look at the CFS V2 extended bias corrected MJO forecast through the 19th of November, this is like really, really a strong, more impactful MJO as it's in phase 3 today, and it's rotating into phases 4, 5, 6, and 7, right on, and even over to 8 by the time we get to the 19th of November. So this one, the CFS MJO forecast is a little bit more robust with the MJO signal, and we're going to basically work our way through 4 and 5 of the maritime continent, and then 6 and 7 where we have enhanced convection and rising air motion across the Western Pacific. We look at this middle diagram. This is a European MJO forecast showing that we are entering phase 4 today. We'll remain in a phase 4 until about the 26th of October before the MJO crashes back into the null and non-impactful smaller inner circle here at the center of the diagram through the 4th of November. We look over here on the right. This is the BOM, the Bureau of Meteorology model, extended MJO forecast showing the MJO into phase 4 and then working its way into the null phase and remaining pretty much in that null phase through the 17th of November. So we do have some differences as far as the models, the MJO forecast. As a rehash here, we see the MJO working its way strongly into phases 4 and 5 and potentially into 6 by early November on the JEFs. And again, we have a much stronger MJO signal as well, except it rotates all the way back around into phases 7 and 8 by the 18th and 19th of November, according to CFS. And again, the European coming back into the null phase here by the 27th or so of October, and then the BOM also working its way back into the null phase. So a little bit of a difference of opinion amongst the models. We look at the latest water temperatures across the Northern Hemisphere oceans. First thing I want to mention is we are seeing a daily Southern Oscillation Index, SOI, is sitting at positive 15.15 today. Anything above positive 7 generally indicates La Nina conditions. So we definitely have a La Nina, weak La Nina across the tropical eastern and central Pacific. We do see warmer than normal water across the northwestern and as well as that north central Pacific area. We do see cooler than normal water generally across the tropical central Pacific Ocean in this location here, where I have my red little cursor. So warmest temperature anomalies are generally in the north central Pacific and then right off the coast of Russia into the Sea of Japan, very much above normal water temperatures, right along the coast of China, the east coast of China, north of Taiwan as well. So this is something that we continue to watch to see how these water temperature anomalies change over time. You notice the orange colors in the Atlantic, North Atlantic, well above normal temperatures in the water, and then really well above normal water temperatures in the Hudson Bay and to the southeast of the Canadian Maritimes there. Now, this is a new one. This is a new one I updated. We do have the new IRI model-based probabilistic ENSO forecast in from the Columbia University. This just came out yesterday afternoon. And look at this. These tall blue vertical bars indicate a probability of La Nina. When they're the blue bars, when they're the gray bars, this indicates a probability of ENSO neutral conditions. So for this winter, we're really focused on the blue tall bars and the gray tall bars. And initially, we're in the month now of October, getting ready to round the bend here to November, here not that long in the future. And we see that we have the latest IRI ENSO forecast shows about a 65% chance for La Nina in October, November, December, and only about a 35% chance for ENSO neutral. We do see the La Nina probability just above 60% in the months of November, December, and January, with ENSO neutral forecasted to be about 38% probability. When we get to the months of December, January, and February, the blue bar still is taller than this gray bar, right? But it's not as tall. So we see with La Nina probabilities, the blue bar, we're just over 50% in December, January, and February, and we're about 45% for ENSO neutral conditions. But then things flip. And the models have been pretty consistent about this. January, February, and March, we now see the gray bar is taller than this blue bar. So that now indicates we have a greater probability, about 56% probability for ENSO neutral by January into February and March, and only a 40% chance for La Nina. And then it just continues to grow. February, March, and April, This tall gray bar now is just under 70% probability for ENSO neutral and just under 30% for La Nina conditions. So not much has changed in this regard from last month's forecast from the Columbia University IRI model. We go over here on the right-hand side. These are the various dynamical and statistical models. Now, this maroon solid line represents the dynamical average of all the models, and this green solid line indicates the average of all the statistical models. And you can see these two lines, the dark green and the dark maroon line here, are almost on top of each other, all the way out through about late December. So that indicates we have pretty high confidence that we will see these La Nina conditions, right? You notice these temperatures right here. This is Nino 3.4 region sea surface temperature anomaly in degrees Celsius. That's what these numbers indicate. And so we see that the statistical average and dynamical average shows the water temperatures dropping to about minus 0.6 degrees Celsius in the months of November, December, January, and December, January, February. But then a little divergence between the solid maroon line, the dynamical average, and the solid green line, the statistical model average right here. Not that much of a gap for January, February, and March. The statistical model average shows the water temperature at minus 0.5 degrees Celsius below normal there in the Nino 3.4 region, while the dynamical model average shows it about minus 0.35. So no matter what, we start seeing these temperatures start to warm by these two lines kind of going up towards the zero line again. Once we get to January. So we're expecting the weak La Nina likely to start the winter, but we're transitioning to ENSO neutral in January. Water temps forecast to be about negative 0.6 C in the Nino 3.4 region. So 0.6 of a degree Celsius below average there. And that should come down a little bit. Last month we were at minus 0.7. So it's going to be a weak La Nina. We look at the probabilities here from IRI models. This breaks down into 3 months. The first initial represents the month. So N would represent November, D, December, J, January. D, December, J, January, F, February. All right, so what will we start with here? These are the percent probabilities broken down. We have a 65% chance La Nina conditions to 35% ENSO neutral in October, November, December. Then in November, December, January, we drop La Nina probability down slightly to 62%, ENSO neutral down to, or up to 38%. For the months of December, January, and February, La Nina probability is up to 53%, and the neutral, ENSO neutral, 46%. So not much of a difference here, right? Notice how these two numbers between La Nina and ENSO neutral are getting closer together. And then we see January, February, March. This is that transition to ENSO neutral. Only a 40% probability of La Nina, 50% probability of neutral conditions. And then February, March, April, 27% La Nina probability and 69% chance of ENSO neutral. If we look at the latest quasi-biennial oscillation, the QBO update, the QBO remains in this easterly phase. This is the latest radiosonde observation. These are the zonal winds in meters per second. They're over the equator in the stratosphere, showing an easterly phase of the QBO. And why do we care about this again? It favors a weaker wintertime stratospheric polar vortex and favors a negative phase of the NAO. Now let's look at the actual teleconnections themselves. The Arctic oscillation, negative AO on the left. You can see what happens here with the negative AO. We get much colder air to stream in from Siberia, cross polar flow right on into Hudson Bay. There's a polar vortex. There's a upper level low, cold low there in Hudson Bay, and we have really good amount of Arctic air getting down from Siberia across into North America, into the Midwest and East Coast with a negative AO. With a positive AO on the right, we have milder conditions across the United States. We have a stronger polar vortex. Over the northern latitudes, Arctic air remains bottled up across the Arctic region with a positive AO. We look at the EPS AO 50 perturb member forecast out through 5 November. we see a slightly negative. Follow the green line here. This is the average of all the ensemble members, the solid green line. So slightly negative AO through about 25 October, according to the EPS model. And then it goes slightly positive from 25 to 28 October, then slightly negative again to eventually neutral conditions in early November. Look at the European EPS AO 50 mature member forecast. This is a 46-day forecast out into early December. Notice we have a slightly negative AO initially from the 21st right under the 26th of October. Then it becomes slightly positive from 26 and 27 October, then dropping negative again with the AO on this model from the 28th of October to the 5th of November. Then we go neutral for a bit from 6 November. Goes a little bit slightly positive there, 16 to 26 November, but then back slightly negative. So if you average this out, we're mainly looking at neutral conditions for much of November, according to this model for the AO. The NOAA Jeffs V12 AO 30 mature member forecast out to 6 November, showing a slightly negative AO through about the 25th of October. And then we become slightly positive 26 to 28 October before we really dive negative again here. From the 29th of October to the 6th of November, we remain in a negative state or negative phase of the AO. So overall, what I get from these models today is we're looking at mainly a negative AO throughout the period through the 5th and 6th of November. There might be a couple times where it slightly protrudes into the slight positive territory or just hangs out around neutral territory. But overall, it's looking like a mainly negative phase of the AO. The North Atlantic Oscillation NAO forecast, here we go. With a negative phase of the NAO on the left, we have a strong blocking high in the North Atlantic and into Greenland. So we have Arctic air and upper level troughs, colder air digging into the troughs on both the eastern U.S. as well as the western portions and northern portions of Europe. You get cold Arctic air, basically to filter down the front and back side of this blocking strong high with a negative NAO. And then positive NAO, whole different scenario. We've got a west to east jet stream, which is going to allow milder Pacific air to get into the United States. And you got mainly a northern U.S. storm track, fast-moving systems, weaker systems, and you have milder air aloft across Western Europe as well. Coldest air with a positive NAO remains up over Greenland and over the Arctic area as a whole. Looking at the European EPS NAO 50 perturbed member forecast out through the 5th of November, showing a slightly negative NAO through the 22nd of October, then becoming neutral on the 23rd of October before turning negative again from 24 to 26 October, then turning neutral again on the 27th of October before turning negative once more from the 28th of October to 4 November. Looking at the European EPS NAO 50 perturbed member forecast out through early December, 46-day forecast here, slightly negative NAO from the 21st today to the 23rd of October, then neutral to slightly positive from 24 to 27 October, before turning more sharply negative 28 October to 5 November. Then we see neutral NAO conditions from the 6th to the 16th of November, before a slight positive turn to neutral through early December. And finally, the NOAA Jeffs V12 NAO 30 perturbed member forecast out to 6 November, showing a slightly negative NAO today through tomorrow, the 22nd of October, transitioning to neutral conditions briefly on the 23rd of October before becoming negative, primarily negative, from the period from 23 October to the 6th of November. You really see the dip to negative here in the NAO on the 30th and 31st of October, as well as into the 1st. It really dips negative at that point. Now onto the Pacific North American PNA forecast. With a positive PNA on the left, you see lower than normal heights in troughing in the eastern U.S., much colder temperatures in the eastern U.S. with a positive PNA. You get upper level ridging across western Canada with a positive PNA, so you've got above normal heights, the orange colors on this graphic on the left, and dry and mild conditions there. Stormy and colder conditions in the east. But with a negative PNA, we flip it. We now have a trough, an upper level trough across western Canada into the western U.S. Colder temperatures, unsettled weather, more storminess out in the western Canada and western US with a negative PNA. And then we get above normal heights, upper level ridging, milder temperatures, and dry conditions for the mid-Atlantic and the southern US, specifically the southeastern US. So the European EPS PNA 50 mature member forecast out to 5 November, showing a slightly negative phase of the PNA today, right on through tomorrow, the 22nd of October, then becoming positive phase PNA from 22 to 26 October, then neutral conditions 26 to 29 October, before we go back to positive phase of the PNA from about the 30th of October all the way to the 5th of November. European EPS PNA 50 mature member forecast out to early December, 46-day forecast. We see a negative phase of the PNA through the 22nd through tomorrow, 22 October. Then it becomes positive briefly from 22 to 26 October, back down to slightly negative from 26 to 28 October. And then we go more strongly positive from 28 October to 11 November. And you look at it, it stays positive the entire time. Then it straddles that neutral line, 11 to 16 November, slightly positive 16 to 25 November, and then neutral again, back to slightly positive. And then the NOAA Jeffs V12 PNA 30 mature member forecast out through 6 November there, slightly negative PNA through tomorrow, the 22nd of October, turning positive from 22 to 25 October. Then we see the PNA making a turn slightly negative from 26 to 29 October before turning positive again, right on from the 29th, 30th of October, right on through the 6th of November. Now for the Eastern Pacific Oscillation, the EPO forecast, a negative EPO on the left, showing strong upper level ridging into the Gulf of Alaska with an upper level trough to the south of it, just to the southeast of the Hawaiian Islands. What this upper level ridge does during the negative EPO is the heights rise and stretch pretty far to the north into Alaska, so the storm track is shifted. The storms have to go up and over the ridge. The jet stream is going to have to go up and over that ridge, and that allows cross-polar flow with a negative EPO, Arctic highs to move southeastward into Canada and the northern U.S. And that's going to result in colder than normal temperatures in the northern plains, Midwest, as well as parts of New England and the mid-Atlantic. With a positive EPO on the right, we see the reversal of the pressure pattern in the Eastern Pacific. We see a low pressure troughing there in the Gulf of Alaska. And then we see higher than normal heights straddling the latitude line where Hawaii is located around 21 degrees north latitude. So low pressure to the north, high pressure to the south with a positive EPO. And that also results in milder air, more of a west to east jet stream with a positive EPO across the United States, mild Pacific air. Now let's look at the European EPS EPO 50 mature member forecast out to 5 November, showing a positive EPO through the 29th of October, and really becomes strongly positive from 23 to the 29th. Then we come down to neutral conditions there briefly around the 29th and 30th of October, before the EPO again becomes positive from 30 October to 5 November. Looking at the European EPS EPO 50 mature member 46-day forecast out to early December, showing a positive phase of the EPO becoming more strongly positive. This is quite a strong EPO on the positive side, right on through the 24th to the 26th of October. Comes down a little bit, slightly positive by the end of October, but then it goes back more strongly positive in early November, back down to neutral around the 6th of November, back more strongly positive around the 11th of November, then back down towards neutral and even slightly negative beyond the 26th of November. Finally, the NOAA Jeffs V12 EPO 30 mature member forecast out to 6 November, showing a slightly positive EPO through 22 October through tomorrow, then more strongly positive from 22 to 28 October, neutral conditions on 29 October, then turning positive again from 29 October right on into 6 November. Looking at the stratospheric polar vortex, as of today, the 21st of October, 2025, these solid white lines represent the height contours up at 30 millibar pressure level in the atmosphere. So you kind of see the shape of these white solid lines. We see a circular shape, a more symmetrical shape to these white solid height lines, indicating this is generally where the polar vortex is located today, and is continuing slow strengthening across the Arctic region. We look at the EPS now, 500 millibar heights and anomalies for this morning. This is this morning here in the upper left. We see the troughing generally closed low there in the central Aleutians, upper level ridging to the east of that across the northeastern Pacific. We do have a little bit of ridging up into southwestern Canada as well. Below normal heights generally across Alaska as a whole and the Northwest Territories and northwestern Canada. We see below normal heights and troughing across the northern plains, and another closed low there across Vermont, New Hampshire. We do see strong upper level ridging extending northeastward towards, or rather northwestward into Baffin Bay, west of Greenland. The upper right-hand graphic here, the EPS 500 millibar geopotential heights and anomaly forecast. This is going out 72 hours into the future for Friday. This Friday, the 24th of October, we see the purples and the green colors across the northeastern Pacific associated with upper level troughing, unsettled weather, and very cool temperatures. We do see an upper level ridge across the central portions of Canada, and then we see a closed upper level low over southeastern Canada with a trough extending south into New England and the mid-Atlantic states. There is also a very strong upper level ridge, basically extending northwestward into southern Greenland. And then bottom left, European EPS 500 geopotential heights and anomalies for the 27th of October, 2025. Below normal heights remain on the Arctic side of the Pacific, right into the Bering Sea, and we see the green color expanding now into Pacific Northwest. So troughing conditions there, upper level trough, unsettled weather conditions, and very cool temps. And then we do see an upper level ridge into Hudson Bay extending northward there, just east of Greenland there. We do see upper level troughing over New England, and then we see a strong upper level high building heights across the North Atlantic to the east of Greenland. Then finally on the bottom right-hand side, this is the European EPS 500 millibar geopotential height and anomalies for the 30th of October, 2025. We still continue to see below normal heights and troughing into the Bering Sea. We see a upper level trough axis off the U.S. Pacific Northwest coast and west coast of Canada. Alaska remains in the troughing area as well under the influence of upper level trough. A strong upper level high is positioned just off of Baja, and that extends northward into south central Canada. We see a closed low and another trough digging across the midwestern U.S. by the 30th. And then we do see a strong upper level ridge expanding to the northwest across eastern Canada. And then finally, we see an upper level trough across the North Atlantic. So here's my final thoughts on today's teleconnections discussion. The MJO is definitely more active. It's into phases 3 and 4. Now, the models are split on whether the MJO continues into phases 5 and 6, or if the MJO rotates back into the null, non-impactful phase in late October. So right now we know it's in phase 3 and 4. It's working its way in phases 3 and 4. We have high confidence in that. But then beyond that, the models, again, are split. Now, no matter how we slice this, though, all these phases that we're showing, phase 3, 4, and 5, they correlate generally to cooler than average temps in the eastern U.S. this time of year. We do see La Nina conditions have developed across the tropical central Pacific. The daily Southern Oscillation Index running positive 15.15, so above a positive 15. We do see below average sea surface temperatures at about minus 0.96 degrees Celsius, and that's according to the latest CDAS data. Sea surface temperature anomalies around the rest of the global oceans there in the northern hemisphere. We see warmer than normal water across the northwestern and north central Pacific Ocean, and then cooler than normal waters located across the central equatorial tropical Pacific. And that's associated with that weak La Nina. Models are indicating a mainly negative, very briefly positive AO. Now that is going to go on through the 6th of November. The negative phase of the AO favors below average temperatures across the eastern U.S. If you have a positive phase of the AO, that favors above average temps across the eastern U.S. The models are indicating a mainly negative NAO through the 6th of November. The negative phase of the NAO will favor cooler than average temperatures across the eastern U.S. The models are also indicating a slightly negative to occasionally You notice how the PNA goes slightly negative, but then it really grows more strongly positive through the 6th of November. The negative PNA, when it's slightly negative, would favor warmer than normal temps for the eastern U.S. with cooler than normal temperatures for the western U.S. A positive PNA, on the other hand, favors cooler than normal temps for the eastern U.S. with warmer than normal temps for the western U.S. Models are also indicating a mainly positive Eastern Pacific Oscillation EPO through 6 November. That positive phase of the EPO favors an upper level trough, cooler than normal temperatures, more unsettled across Alaska and the Bering Sea. And further downstream, we have an upper level ridge and warmer than average temps from the northern plains to the east coast with that positive EPO. And then the models are also indicating a slowly strengthening stratospheric polar vortex into the last week of October. I did take a look longer range into November, and there are some model indications for a weakening polar vortex, just as a weakening of it as we head into early November with warming stratospheric temperatures. So we'll keep an eye on the polar vortex. So my overall assessment based on today's teleconnections, we do see the negative NAO and negative AO influence the weather pattern with strong upper level ridging into the Baffin Bay, eastern Canada, as well as across the Arctic, north of North America. There is an upper level trough located across the eastern U.S. for the most part through early November. We'll see recurring upper level troughs dig into this eastern U.S. area as long as this negative NAO remains in place. And again, we're seeing negative AO influence as well. There is potential for a cold ending to October and a cold start to the month of November across the eastern U.S. We are watching for potential coastal storm development. Now, this is either tropical or hybrid type. I know we got Tropical Storm Melissa in the Caribbean today, but we'll keep an eye on that tropical system. But we'll also just watch for regular dynamics starting to take place in the upper levels of the atmosphere, where it's not necessarily tropical, just a coastal storm. So we'll keep an eye out for that. So that could be a potential storm the last few days of October. And on the backside of that coastal storm, we could see enhanced northerly winds and those cooler temperatures remaining in place. Weak La Nina has developed with potential movement of the MJO into phases 4 and 5 with greater Pacific influence on United States weather. So we'll continue to watch the MJO. And then the latest IRI forecast from Columbia University shows La Nina remaining weak, generally at minus 0.6 degrees Celsius, water temperature anomalies in the Nino 3.4 region early this winter, and then we move over to ENSO neutral conditions in January. So as you can see, there's a lot of players here. We're now moving in, we're in late October. We're going to be moving into early November. The dynamics continue to increase in the upper levels of the atmosphere. The teleconnections influences continue to definitely increase those influences on our weather patterns. And, we look back at, these teleconnections, the forecast, the latest models here, and, what are we really seeing today? We're seeing mainly between all three models I showed you for the AO, a mainly negative AO throughout the period through early November. Maybe briefly positive here, but that's about it. And then the NAO, we're showing you mainly negative to neutral type NAO right on through early November. For the PNA, so bottom line here is the AO being mainly negative would indicate cooler than normal temps in the east. A negative NAO for the most part of the period through 6 November would indicate cooler than normal temps in the eastern U.S. The PNA, it's only briefly negative on the EPS model. It's positive, which means I now have upper level ridging trying to build into Western Canada. And I have a positive phase of that again beyond the 30th of October. On this model, the PNA is mainly on the positive side to neutral. And then on this model, we have two distinct times where the PNA really bumps up positive. That would be the 22nd to the 25th of October, and then also over here beyond the 29th of October there. So positive PNA favors cooler than average temps in the eastern U.S. We look at the EPO. Now this is the one outlier. The EPO is strongly positive for the most part, right on through 29 October. So yeah, we're going to have a strongly positive EPO which that generally tends to favor more of the milder than normal temps across much of the eastern U.S. So we'll continue to watch the polar vortex. And yep, that is all I got for now, everybody. I know it's a mouthful, it's a lot of information, but I hope you enjoy my teleconnections discussions. We'll continue to follow these teleconnections as we progress from late October into early November. That's all I got for now, everybody. Until next time, take care and God bless everyone.